spider's tangled web. Better watch your step or you'll wind up dead in the spider's tangled web.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Weave Your Web Revived. I nearly said Weave Your Revived. Weave Your Revived Web. Maybe that should be the name of the show instead. No, I'm teasing. Welcome to episode 4 of Weave Your Web Revived. I am your host, celebrity psychic Tor. How are you doing? It's been a while. It's been a while since there's been an episode. I think it was November. So this is the first episode of the year. And I'll be very, very candid and tell you the reason that there wasn't an episode this year so far is because I had tonsillitis and I couldn't speak. And then even when I could speak, it sounded like I'd swallowed a rattlesnake. So recording an episode of a podcast was pretty much out of the question. So, yeah, it's the first episode of the year. Happy New Year. I know it's a little late to be saying that. Also, Happy Lunar New Year. Happy Chinese New Year. Year of the Dragon, which just happened 2 days ago, I think, at the time of recording this. Year of the Dragon. Very, very powerful. I'm not really an authority on Chinese astrology, but I know that Year of the Dragon is very powerful and very special indeed. Now, the last time that there was an episode put out, which again, I think it was November, I put a little question in with the Spotify interactions. So if you're listening to this on your Spotify app, you should be able to see little bits and pieces where you can interact, little bits and pieces where you can send in a question to the show directly, and that all comes directly to me. I don't have a team of people or anything like that. I cobble this podcast together completely on my own. I do everything for it all by myself. So it all comes directly to me, so don't worry, there's not going to be any strangers or, people poking around what you send in. But obviously, it is a podcast, and so if you want to remain a little bit anonymous with the questions that you're sending in, that's fine, but I'm going to come to that later. So on the last episode, I put a little question on the Spotify interactive part. And there must be a better name for that than Spotify interactive part, mustn't there? And I asked, have you ever got in debt to pay for a curse removal or similar? The past few episodes, if you've not heard episodes 1, 2 and 3, there was a lot of talk about psychic scams. And one of the big scams that fake psychics do, I guess is the word to use, or try to do, is tell people that they've got a curse on them and try and charge an extortionate amount to have this fake curse removed. And thankfully, most people, 66.7% of the voters, said no. That they have not got themselves in debt for a curse removal or similar. That actually makes me very, very happy, especially considering the poll results from previous episodes where a lot of people had been told they had a curse on them. A lot of people had, fallen prey to a lot of this fake psychic malarkey, that goes on, particularly on the psychic online platforms. So this makes me very, very happy. Very, very happy that at least the majority of the voters have not got into debt because of these scams. Now, I'm going to be going through some tips to get the most from your psychic readings. These tips are pretty universal depending on where and how you're having a psychic reading, but probably more beneficial if you're the type of person who has online psychic readings, phone psychic readings, especially if you're paying per minute. But again, they're kind of universal too. I've made a few little bullet points. So the first one is make sure you're relaxed. When you're preparing to have a reading, when you're bringing up the website, when you're dialing the number, when you're contacting the psychic, in whichever way you do so, make sure you're relaxed. I know that can be very hard, because often when we go for psychic readings, it's often in a place of needing an answer very, very quickly, or not being sure of what is going on with a situation. And so we're not necessarily relaxed. But if you can, please try and be as relaxed as possible before starting the reading. If you've got to meditate for 5 minutes beforehand, or if you've got to just sit and listen to a happy song, at the top of the reading, if it's a text chat reading, please do that. Do anything you can to have a more relaxed energy. And the reason for this is that when a psychic's giving you a reading, if they're a genuine psychic, a lot of the time they're going to be picking up on your energy. So if you go in very, very anxious, or very, you want things to be hurried, or the kind of energy I'm talking about. If you're a little bit agitated, the psychic is going to pick up on that, and it's going to make the psychic feel a little bit anxious and a little bit agitated, and it's going to muddy the waters, so to speak, the energetic waters of giving you the readings, getting you that guidance, getting you those answers. So yeah, make sure that you're very, very relaxed, as relaxed as possible. Like I say, I understand that we often have readings from a place of, not relaxed, not feeling relaxed. The second bullet point I have here is have some questions prepared, depending on the situation. So if you're at like a party, you've had a few glasses of wine, maybe part of the entertainment is a lovely psychic coming by, and the psychic might be doing some general readings and it's all a little bit more light-hearted, that's fine. You don't necessarily need some questions then, okay? That's okay. Probably going to have a little general poke around, get you some nice predictions, that sort of thing. Have a bit of a giggle with the girlies while you go for your next glass of wine after you've had your reading. That's fine. And maybe if it's a mediumship reading, which again is slightly different to a standard psychic reading, that's fine too. Or maybe just a general tarot reading. This is what I mean, like depending on the situation. But if you're paying per minute, if you're in a situation where you're paying per minute, and it's text chat, or it's a phone reading, or even a video reading, and you're paying per minute, have some questions prepared. That's going to help the psychic get the information that you want to you much quicker. Some people, they like to go to a psychic, they like to have a general reading, and that's fine. If that's really, really what you want, make sure that that's made explicitly clear at the start. I'd like a general reading. Can you pull a few cards? Can you have a look at the next week? That sort of thing. But don't go to a psychic and say general reading when really what you mean is, when's Bob gonna text me back? The psychic might pick up on that, but there might be 3 or 4 things before then that you didn't want to know about until the psychic gets to that point. Because we can't control what comes through first. So if you come in very generally and you don't have a question, we're just going to tell you what comes through first. We can't control what comes through first. So, paying per minute, have some questions prepared so that you're getting the information that you want. Okay? The third bullet point I have here is don't interrupt or keep asking questions while the psychic is talking, typing. While the psychic is essentially working and doing the reading, don't interrupt. Don't keep asking questions on top of questions. I say to people all the time, I am not RoboCop. I am not RoboCop. I am not a robot. My brain has to process what you're saying to me. So processing the question that you ask me or the type of reading that you're asking from me. I'm having to process the psychic information that's coming through. I'm having to translate that into English. So it goes from psychic information into English to you. Because that's how I like to see the readings a little bit, as if I'm like an interpreter from, you know, the spirit realm, whatever you want to call it, to, you know, providing the information to all of you. So if you're asking question after question before I finish doing the first one, again, it muddies the spiritual waters, it muddies the energetic waters of getting that information to you, getting those questions answered for you. So let me, or whichever psychic you choose to go to, let them finish one question before moving on. And I know that might sound a little bit nitpicky from me, but I know that every other online psychic and every other phone psychic would agree with me with that one. And the fourth little bullet point that I have here is, don't give too much information. Don't give too much information. There's a couple of reasons for this. One of the reasons for this, and I'm pretty sure I've spoken about this very possibly in episode 3, fake psychics will often ask you for a lot of information at the start of a reading so that they can Google you while you are paying per minute. So this is more common in text chat readings, sometimes phone readings too, but it's more common in text chat readings. So this kind of goes both ways. Be wary of a psychic asking for too much information very early on in the reading, but also don't give too much information. Ask your question. If you want to give a little bit of a backstory, that's fine, but you know, don't be given all the ins and outs of the story, because you're you're stopping the psychic a little bit from doing their job. You know, the psychic should be speaking a lot more than you. The psychic should be providing a lot more information than you. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth. You know, oh, that's interesting. Can you look at that area a little bit more? Yes, I can. You know, I might often say, I don't know if this will make sense, but, you know, did you have an ex 2 years ago who had a pink car? So I'm sort of framing it as conversationally so that, you know, it kind of makes sense. So there might be a little bit of that, but don't give too much information to the psychic. And again, the other side of that is, be wary of psychics who ask too many questions, particularly at the start of a reading. And like I say, I'm pretty sure it was episode 3, I went into a lot more detail about that scam. And I don't have a fifth bullet point, but I always feel like you should be walking away from a reading having more information than what you went in with, having a bit more guidance than what you went in with, or having a bit more clarity. If you walk away from a reading very, very confused, that's not necessarily good. And also, readings are supposed to be enjoyable. I know I've said this many, many times before, and I'm sure I'll say it many, many times again, but readings are supposed to be enjoyable. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
You can take my friends, you can take my name, you can hide your face, or you can play your games. Trouble's looking at you. I was born this broken. Just give me one thing true, and leave the rest in the spider's tangled web. Better watch your step or you'll wind up dead in the spider's tangled web.
Welcome back. My name is Tor. You're listening to Weave Your Web Revived, and this is the part of the show where I read and react a little bit to a psychic news story from the news, obviously. I don't read these before recording the show, so I'm hearing this news article as you are hearing me read the news article. That was a very wordy. I feel very wordy today without actually saying an awful lot. Do you ever have those days where you ramble just a little bit? Anyway, so the headline for this story is: Mum spent her last £5 on a psychic reading and it gave her a new career. And I forgot to say, this is from Yorkshire Live. And then the subheading is: Casey was desperate and facing homelessness, but has transformed her life. So let's read this story. A mum who was once homeless and spent her last £5 on a psychic reading now works as a medium, helping people connect with their loved ones who have passed away. Casey is a psychic medium and holistic coach and believes her 5-year-old son also has the gift. She has been working with the paranormal for 13 years and also teaches others about mediumship. That was not the turn that I thought this story was going to take. I wasn't expecting her to spend her last £5 on a reading and then become a psychic, so my interest is piqued now. The mum often helps people deal with loss by helping them contact their deceased loved ones. At 19, Casey found herself in a tough spot when her family life fell apart and she faced homelessness. I'm so sorry to hear that, Casey. With £5 left, she decided to get a psychic reading instead of buying food at a supermarket. That's probably what I would do too. Casey from Essex explained, I really needed some help because my life was about to turn upside down. The woman who gave me the reading told me that I had a gift. She could feel it. At the time, no one knew that I'd been seeing spirits during my childhood. The first time being when I was just 5 years old. Very, very young to be seeing spirits in your childhood. Very, very young indeed. She told me to join a circle where I could train my skills. I'm glad that she's called it skills, actually. Very, very, very pleased to see that, because often in the press, psychic ability, psychic skill is often kind of hammed up as, a little bit like being Spider-Man or something. And that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. So very glad to see it being called skills in Yorkshire Live by Casey there. Big thumbs up from me. I really needed some kind of support and like-minded people around me, so I just went for it. After training for 6 months to be a psychic medium, Casey began giving her own readings, which led her to a new career path and a way to help others dealing with loss. Casey now has regular clients, but advises them to see her no more than once a year to avoid dependency. Big thumbs up, Casey. Psychic dependency is it can be a real problem. And so I'm really, really glad that Casey, is advising people from seeing her too much, more than she feels they need to. Now, I don't offer mediumship readings, so I don't class myself as a medium, professionally. But I would imagine that once a year for mediumship readings is probably about right. Her clients mostly seek to connect with departed loved ones. She added, I want for them to allow time and space between our sessions for any guidance that loved ones has given them to be played out. Makes a lot of sense. There's lots of different forms of bereavement. Some people are looking for closure. We've had quite a lot of reconciliations happen in the sessions. Beautiful. Other people might want comfort to know that their loved one is there or that they're at peace. I just let the spirits come forward who want to be there for that person at that time. I love Casey. Casey, if you're listening to this, I absolutely adore you. I adore your attitude towards the profession. I adore how you're speaking about it. I adore how you are talking about how you help the clients and all of that. Okay, there's a few more paragraphs. Casey, a psychic, finds that her own life events can change how she connects with spirits. She shared that when she was expecting her son, her readings got really strong. That's interesting. But sometimes, like when her mother-in-law passed away, sorry to hear that, Casey has to stop working because it creates a block in her spirit communication. She explained, a couple of weeks before my mother-in-law passed, when we were aware that she didn't have long, I could feel a slight block coming in, and it was almost like I was struggling to see and hear the spirits. I just cancelled my bookings because I couldn't work, and I needed to be more focused and centered with my family and the bereavement we were about to go through before I could go back to doing readings again. That is so sensible. Feeling like she wasn't able to perform the readings as well because of stuff that was going on in her own life, and cancelling the bookings to not give people, a subpar experience. I love that. I love this girl. If your energy isn't aligned or you're going through something personally, it will definitely have an interruption in the way you can communicate spiritually. 100% agree, Casey. Her 5-year-old son, Oscar, oh, what a cute name, also seems to have the same gift as Casey, and her husband, Danny, have seen him chatting to unseen people on the baby monitor. Casey recalled, about 6 months after my mother-in-law passed, Oscar was playing with his trucks in the front room and said, "No, Grandma, it's this truck. My husband and I just sort of looked at..." Sorry, there's a typo in the article. Sorry, hold on. My husband and I just sort of looked at each other. Yorkshire Live, you've got a typo. There's often been times as well where he'll just get up at night and start talking to someone, and we've watched it on the baby monitor. He's definitely open to it and is very receptive to what's going on, which is really cool. I think that there is probably a bit of a genetic component with, psychic ability. I often find that if people have very psychic grandmothers or very psychic mothers or fathers, that they are very, very psychic themselves. Maybe not genetic in the science sense, but I do feel like it's something that can be passed down. Casey mentioned her husband Danny isn't spiritual like her and their son, but has an open mind about her ghost hunting. Danny's mum really liked reading into spiritual things, so he's always been quite open-minded to it, but is a bit scared of it. But since he's got to know me and we've been together, he definitely sits on the side of there's got to be something, because how would my wife know about this stuff? Danny's a military guy with a different sort of mindset. His buddies often ask if what I do is for real or nonsense. Very, very important question. I love people who are skeptical. He then shares stories about how we'll be having dinner, and a few minutes later, I'm up chatting to someone invisible. Been there. In response to skeptics over the years, Casey said, while at first she found them, quotes, stressful, now she sees them as a challenge to convince she's the real deal. She disclosed, I've had quite a lot of skeptics book with me, and they'll say things like, I want to see if this is really true. This is your chance to prove to me. It's something that would have really panicked me before, because I would have felt like a bit of a performing monkey. But now I don't. I look at it as a positive challenge. Yeah, I love skeptics. I love skeptics. I think being healthily skeptical but having an open mind is a really good place to be with all of this, spiritual, psychic stuff. She added, I have witnessed firsthand how mediumship can bring grieving loved ones a sense of peace. I have seen how working with spirit and intuition can truly help with life-altering decisions, whilst bringing closure and connection to those who have lost someone. Helping others through mediumship has changed my life too. It's given me a stable home and a career when I was at a point in my life where I felt very lost. I absolutely love that article. I mostly love Katie's attitude, towards the job, and how she speaks about the clients. And, I'm really, really pleased that she has a cut-off for the client so that they don't develop that psychic reader dependency. Absolutely loved that article. Again, that was from Yorkshire Live. There was a typo in there. Sorry, Yorkshire Live. Wait, I wonder how many typos the blurb for this episode is going to have, though. It's not a criticism. It just makes me giggle when like a big news outlet like that has huge typos in the story. Anyway, I'm going to do a question from a listener which has come in via the last episode. I'm so sorry that you've had to wait. I'm so sorry that you've had to wait so long for this. Like I say, I think the last episode was November. And if you would like to get your question into the show for a free mini reading, don't make it a question that's too urgent. Because there's no set schedule for the show at the moment. And of course, life happens. I got tonsillitis. I couldn't speak. But if you would like to get your question into the show, the best way to do it is to go to www.torjamesfaulkner.com. That's torjamesfaulkner.com. And don't worry if that's whizzed past. The link to that will be in and around wherever you're listening to this. Go to the contact page. Make sure that you've put Weave Your Web in the subject bar so that I know that it's for the show. Pop your question in the body for the text. The body. Where you put the text, that's what it's called, isn't it? The body of the email. Am I making things up? Send that through, and like I was saying earlier, that will come directly to me. You can also send your question in through the Spotify app. So if you're listening to this on Spotify on your phone or tablet, there will be like a couple of little interactive boxes where you can send the question through. There's usually a poll for each episode. So this question is from... Oh, and that's what I was going to say too. On the website, on www.torjamesfaulkner.com, you can also have a private email reading with me. So if you don't want, your dirty laundry aired on the show, or if you just want it to be really, really private, that comes directly to me too, and it's me that answers it to you. Those are usually answered within a day, sometimes 48 hours, but usually a day. You can do that on the website too, on the psychic reading page. And there's also a Weave Your Web page where you can listen to past episodes. So there's episodes from The Vault, which launched this version of Weave Your Web, and you can listen to all the new episodes on there too. Maybe you don't like listening on Spotify or anywhere else. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to get in trouble. Okay. So this question is from MK. And MK asks, what are my younger siblings' thoughts and intentions for me? Okay. Now, you've said siblings, and I've got a feeling that it's two. Is it a brother and sister? I feel like it's a brother and sister. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take thoughts and feelings for brother. Thoughts and feelings for brother, cards. Thoughts and feelings for sister. Oh, sorry, thoughts and intentions. For sister. Both of these siblings absolutely adore you. Would I be right in saying, MK, did you have a hand in raising these two? You're the eldest, and I feel like the eldest of a few siblings always kind of, helps out a little bit, but I feel like it's a little bit more than that. I feel like you were a little bit more like a second mother. Your mother was around and everything like that, but it feels like you were kind of a second mother type figure there, like a third parental figure, if you like. So there is that kind of respect for you there. You're the eldest, you helped raise them, you did this for them, you taught them that, you played with them, and maybe all the things. So the thoughts and feelings there are very, very loving towards you, very, very respectful, very, very respectful. Sister is maybe a little bit harder at showing it, maybe not always getting on, maybe not friends with sister, maybe you and sister are not besties, but the admiration, the respect, and the love is there. Like I say, maybe not besties with sister, but it's still there. And then the intentions. So from brother, the intentions, he just really wants you to be happy. He wants you to live your life. He wants you to be happy. He wants you to have the life that you deserve to have. Maybe he's not in touch as much as he should be. It feels like you're all kind of in different parts of the globe. It feels like you're in different places a lot of the time. So he really wants you to be happy. He wants you to be in a place where you feel secure and you feel happy. And then sister, she feels like you already have it all. Her intentions are not so much for you. Her intentions are to be like you. She feels like you have it all. In her mind, you're living the luxury. I don't feel like that's necessarily true. But her intentions are to be like you. Maybe there's a little bit of jealousy there from sister too because of that. Because from her perspective, it's very much like you're living the life. You're rich. You've got all this stuff going on. And she wants to be like that. She wants to be living the luxury. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of jealousy there, which might explain why you're not as besties. But from both of them, just to slightly recap, from both of them, it's very much a lot of love, respect, wanting you to be happy, and wanting to be like you. Thank you very, very much for listening to this show. I know this episode was a little bit rambly. I know. It was a little bit more of a light-hearted episode. I wanted to have the first episode of the year be a little bit more jolly. The past few episodes we were talking a lot about the psychic scams and and there was a lot of harsh, stories that had come through and that were being shared on the show in the past 3 episodes. So yeah, I did want this show to be a little bit more light-hearted, but I'm a little bit more rambly today. That's okay. Still rambling. Here I go. Anyway, thanks for listening to the episode. I will see you next time. Girl power.